Good morning, friends. This is Pastor Lorri from First United Methodist Church in Kirksville on a still snow on the ground, cold but feeling much warmer than this temperature should feel February morning. So it is good to join you here today. We are praying for all of those who've been severely impacted by this storm system, including likely some of our folks who normally join us who winter in Texas, and know that our prayers are with you as we're all dealing with in various ways these times. And I was thinking about the challenges that have come in waves over these past months as I was folding napkins. This brown crock behind me is where my cloth napkins rest when we're not using them. And I realized that a few of them have been through the wash probably one too many times. And this one in particular, the edges are really getting frayed. And I discovered there's a giant hole running through the seam. And it's not going to take much. One tiniest catch and it's just going to tear right in half. And I wonder if some of us are feeling a little bit like that napkin. There's that saying that I'm down to my last nerve and you're standing on it. Well, it seems like this week a lot of folks are down to that last nerve. And that's truly understandable because we're exhausted, we're worried, we're angry about things, we're fearful, we're grieving, we're then short-tempered. And so is it any wonder that we feel like we're just hanging on by that last thread sometimes? And so as we think about how is it with our souls and maybe what we can do in these days ahead to fill our souls with what they need, I'm realizing that sometimes what our souls need is to take a step back from all of the input, the news, and we've talked about that on some Fridays. But today I'm also thinking that sometimes the place that will refresh and renew our souls is stepping into the problems of the world. And I was reminded this week of Rosa Parks. You probably know her name as the woman who refused to get up on a bus seat back in the 1950s, and that was one of the pivotal moments of the civil rights movement. Well, when that story is told, it's often narrated as she was tired after a long day of work, and that's why she didn't get up when she was asked to make way for a white man to sit in her seat. And I was reading a biography about her earlier this fall, and she was reflecting on that day. And she said, people always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired, but that isn't true. I wasn't tired physically, well, no more tired than I usually was at the end of a working day. No, the tired I was tired of giving in. She goes on to say that she had been pushed as far as she could stand to be pushed. She's on her last nerve. And so on that particular day, that whole culmination of events leading up to it, she said, I felt that if I did stand up, it meant that I approved of the way I was being treated, and I did not approve. Tired of giving in. On her last nerve, by remaining seated, she stepped in to the problems of the world that were most prevalent at that day. And so I'm wondering, as we move into Lent for another year, this is often a time where we choose some kind of practice. Sometimes we fast from something. Sometimes we intentionally pick up a practice. This year will probably look different than it has in the past because we are in a different place. And it may be that there's not a single practice that fits right now. But what we can do is we can pay attention to the ways that God is leading us through this time. Because God is faithful to meet us where we're at, whatever that looks like. Whether we are feeling strong going into this or whether we are afraid and torn. And so I thought today, I'm going to read from Isaiah 58. It's one of these books from the prophet Isaiah that's a remarkable combination of, at times, written to the nation of Israel. At times, Israel is kind of given a good talking to. Other times, it's very caring and just healing. And chapter 58 talks a little bit about what fasting may look like at different times. And so I would simply encourage you as you listen. You don't have to try to make sense of the whole thing, but just listen for a phrase that catches your attention. And then maybe sit with that in the days ahead. What might God be communicating with you? Where might you be given an opportunity to step into the problems of the world in a way that even in the smallest bit will make this world a more healing place, a place of kindness and justice, a place where oppression is not seen as okay. And so let's listen together from Isaiah 58. Shout out, do not hold back. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Announce to my people their rebellion, to the house of Jacob their sins. Yet day after day they seek me, and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that practiced righteousness and did not forsake the ordinance of their God. They ask of me righteous judgments. They delight to draw near to God. Why do we fast, but you do not see? Why humble ourselves, but you do not notice? Look, you serve your own interest on your fast day and oppress all your workers. Look, you fast only to quarrel and to fight and to strike with a wicked fist. Such fasting as you do today will not make your voice heard on high. Is such the fast that I choose? A day to humble oneself? Is it to bow down the head like a bulrush and to lie in sackcloth and ashes? Will you call this a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? Now, beginning with verse 6, this is where it gets interesting. Is not this the fast that I choose? To loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover them, and not to hide yourself from your own kin. Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up quickly. Your vindicator shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry for help, and he will say, Here I am. If you remove the yoke from among you, the pointing of the finger, the speaking of evil, if you offer your food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, then your light shall rise in the darkness, and your gloom shall be like the noonday. The Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your needs in parched places and make your bones strong. And you shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water whose waters never fail. Your ancient ruins shall be rebuilt. You shall raise up the foundations of many generations. You shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of streets to live in. If you refrain from trampling the Sabbath, from pursuing your own interests on my holy day, if you call the Sabbath a delight, the holy day of the Lord honorable, if you honor it not going your own ways, serving your own interests or pursuing your own affairs, then you shall take delight in the Lord, and I will make you ride upon the heights of the earth. I will feed you with the heritage of your ancestor Jacob. for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. That was Isaiah 58. And so I'm wondering, was there a phrase from that, even just a word or two, that really caught your ear, that really pinged your heart? Well, if there is, I just pray that you will give some attention to that. And maybe nothing stood out to you from that, but there may be other ways in the days ahead that you get a sense of some way to be caring for your soul in this time. And so as we enter into Lent, my prayers are with us all, that it will be a time that draws us closer to God, and in doing so, draws us closer to one another and closer into meeting the needs of this world we live in. And go in peace, friends. We'll see you over the weekend for our first Sunday in Lent online. Take care.